Welcome to Tim and Julie Harris Superstar Interviews. We're joined today by Tom Rossiter, the president of RESAAS, a rapidly growing social and global referral network for real estate agents. His service allows agents to discover, network, learn, refer, and connect with agents locally, nationwide, and internationally. RESAAS started in 2013 as a social media website for agents and quickly grew in size into a portal for agents to meet, connect, and exchange ideas, news, and advice. Since then, it's recently added listing capabilities, a new marketplace for apps, and a growing array of features really designed to help agents function more efficiently in today's social media environment. Tom's going to give us an inside scoop on the RESAAS network and explain why it's quickly becoming the next killer app for real estate agents in today's marketplace. Now let's join our host, Tim Harris.
Okay, thank you, Tim, for the introduction. I really appreciate it. And Tom, are you there?
I am.
Okay,
thanks,
now
Tim.
yes.
Thanks for the great introduction. Pleased to be on the air with you guys today and share some of our experiences with your listeners.
I think it's International Week here at the radio show. Yesterday we had someone from Romania. Then I think we had someone from Australia. So this is good. Let's just jump right in. RESAAS is, again, something, and a lot of our listeners know that the companies that we feature on the radio show are companies that I've heard good things about from our other coaching students. So really, essentially, to be invited to be on the radio show, we always like to kind of, get feedback from our existing coaching students, and your website is something we've been hearing a lot of great things about. So why a social network for agents? What was the initial vision that inspired the design, the launch of RESAAS?
Well, at RESAAS, we empower real estate agents to take everything they do in the real world that's effective and bring that same workflow online. And as we all know, moving things online allows for a broader reach, to be present for top-of-mind marketing more easily, and to take their business to wider markets. And I think it's pretty clear to everyone listening, and as everyone knows, real estate agents are a very social group of professionals. RESAAS just allows them to be equally as social in an online setting. But the big difference is that RESAAS is only for licensed professionals. That's agents, realtors, brokers, or professionals working under the umbrella of a franchise or an association. So this is a professionals-only network of like-minded agents wanting to do more business.
Interesting. So I think the obvious comparison would be to at least I'm sure our listeners are going to be asking, how does this compare to Active Rain? So how does it compare to Active Rain?
Well, not really at all. I mean, Active Rain was great to help agents start the blogging trend a few years back. But really what they do and other players in the market had no impact on what we plan to do. We started to execute on our vision long before that. And this came about from crisscrossing North America, hearing directly from agents, broker owners, franchise heads, people in associations and boards and MLSs about their pain points with the industry at large. And what we heard was pretty loud and clear, and it allowed us to move forward with building a single destination for licensed real estate professionals.
So I'm really curious about something you just said. You said the pain points in the industry. Do you remember what some of those were?
Yeah, it's mainly to do with the experience that agents have when it comes to listings and what happens. And I think, if this is a show for agents, and they know firsthand that it's not just about selling, it's about winning that listing in the first place. And that's something that's often overlooked. And we know firsthand ourselves that when an agent's in that living room talking to the seller, trying to convince that person to list their home with that agent, that's a big deal. And it's a yes moment when they win it. And what typically happens downstream of that is that the listing is often removed from the agent. There's a separation that happens. And that listing that the agent worked so hard to win is now being shipped around online through aggregators and portals and so on without that listing agent attached. And it doesn't give a great experience to the agent that's worked so hard to do it and paying out of their own pocket at that point to market the listing.
Okay, now you're really on my soapbox, and I appreciate that, because that is a huge pain point for the industry. You're absolutely right, and you guys know that probably because, again, you've been hearing this from your users. But so how does RESAAS help to keep the listing agent prominent on their listing, which is at the end of the day, and I also get the feeling you guys are in agreement that essentially the the lifeblood of this industry is the individual agent, specifically the individual listing agent. Without a really powerful listing agent, there's really no real estate industry. It all kind of just falls apart. So how does RESAAS, you said making it so that the listing agent, their work effort is rewarded regardless of where the listing is displayed. Can you help me understand how that works?
Yeah, completely. And now it's worth saying that having the listing and the agent tethered all the way through the process is one of our core principles. We don't buy or license or scrape listings from anywhere. We're not plugged into ListHub. We're not plugged into other aggregators. All of the listing data on RESAAS is original content added by listing agent themselves. And I'm sure that the listeners are well aware of the issues that I just mentioned as it relates to the listing that they've worked so hard to win becoming increasingly detached from the agent as it makes its way through aggregators and then out to the search portals. And we don't go there. And in fact, Tim, we're at the other end of the spectrum. We'll always ensure that the listing agent is directly attached to their own listing, and I think more importantly, that other agents will never be able to advertise against a listing that isn't their own. We're seeing more and more listings added to RESAAS before they appear on other search portals. I think mainly because our platform is real time. It takes seconds to add a listing and to upload as many photos as they like. And we're amassing listing information on RESAAS that aggregators and MLSs and portals are still waiting for. So it really highlights how agents are wanting to find a better way to perform their primary duty, which, to their seller is to get a listing sold for the best price and in a good amount of time.
Well, so you guys are, I'm sure you guys know the Coming Soon movement that kind of started in earnest, I think, 2-3 years ago. The, pre-marketing thing that's been around forever. It's kind of gone mainstream. What you guys are enabling, I think, and if you're a listing agent, you've worked your butt off to get that listing. Heck yeah. If you can do some pre-marketing to it, if you can, essentially control the messaging about that listing before it gets sort of overexposed on the zillions of different websites, assuming that, you guys haven't been listing agents listening haven't actually gone to the effort of figuring out, well, I do want the listing here and I don't want it there. Most of you guys just kind of throw it on whatever syndicator and God knows where it's going to appear, usually going through ListHub. And, maybe it works for you, maybe it doesn't. But I like what I'm hearing now because, so RESAAS essentially, and the listing agent puts their information on there, then RESAAS obviously will publish the information, and then that is then searched by hypothetical homeowners. So RESAAS must be becoming a really popular destination for buyers, really motivated buyers who are wanting to know about the newest inventory first. That has to be something that's a huge benefit to for an agent working with you, yes?
Correct. And I think, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do at RESAAS and one of our core value propositions is that we just reflect what really happens in the industry, but as I said at the beginning of the show, online. And, this whole popular topic of pocket listings and coming soon and all the rest, it gets a lot of press space, but the reality is it's been in the industry forever, and it will always be so. And that's because there's agents wanting to move a listing to get it sold. And we know how it works in brokerages where, the typical Monday morning sales meeting has a little whiteboard and they go around the room of the agents that have bothered to show up and they say, right, who's got a new listing? And try and match any buyers that other agents might have to that listing before it goes through the motions of all of the expense that marketing and that listing incurs. And all we're doing is the same thing but online. So at all points of an agent's involvement with RESAAS, they have the complete ability to define who sees their content. Now, they might want to create a little group of, a few of the agents they deal with anyway in a little neighborhood, and that's fantastic, and they keep it amongst themselves. Or they might say, well, I've got a listing, I've got to get it sold, these guys are leaving town, I've got to get this in front of as many eyeballs as possible, and we help them market and get that listing out to the biggest audience we can, first off across RESAAS, but secondly, if they choose to synchronize any of their other social networks that they may already have, we'll promote their listings out on those channels as well.
Okay, so that's interesting. Again, this is getting back to the idea that your technology will allow a listing agent to be more efficient, and in a lot of ways making it so that maybe a lot of these guys would have had listing coordinators in the past that would have to do all the loading and the different publishing and syndication on the agent's own, social networks. Your system allows them to do that almost automatically. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, it is. And, if you've been to the shows that I've been to, the Connects and all of the association conventions and all the other real estate shows that there are, there's always a theme and the topic of social media, and it's a little bit of a conundrum for many agents, and they're always well attended. There's some great speakers on the circuit, but it's still, there's still the hands that fly up at the end that say, that sounds great, guys, but I've got a Twitter account. What do I do? How do I make that actually benefit my business? We try and solve that conundrum by saying, if you use RESAAS and you just bring your regular workflow online, so everything you do with a listing, update photos or edit a price, do it on RESAAS, and that little action that an agent does will turn it into a really elegant update that they can choose to push out across their other social channels. So if they've got a LinkedIn account or a Facebook business page or a Twitter account, they can do one little thing on RESAAS, and if they choose to, that gets pushed out across those other channels, keeping what they're doing top of mind and in front of their clients as well.
You keep on saying something. I think it's really interesting. If they choose to, right? So you're respecting the fact that it's the listing agent who's making the decision where their stuff's going to be syndicated. You must see that that's sort of a growing, social movement inside the real estate industry, that the listing agents are really wanting that control back. Is that something you think is going to continue, or is that just something that's just on the edges, on the fringes?
Well, I think it's a fundamental of the industry, and it's when we've heard that firsthand. We heard it during our, before we even started doing and building out RESAAS and launching it. We heard that from our user focus groups, and we've actually heard it increasingly so since we've launched and since we've been out there on the road talking to agents, talking to the broker owners, and even the franchises too. And it seems like it's all over the press, right? It's a hot topic. We want to make sure that at all points in this process, consumers are reminded that there's a professional involved for the benefit of them. It's one thing to find a house online using an online search portal or a catalog, whatever it might be, and they're great tools for consumers. But when it comes to the actual business of real estate, that transaction that they're buying or they're selling, it's essential to have a professional involved in that.
Absolutely, and always will be. So my mind always goes to that of being a listing agent and showing these guys the power of learning how to be listing agents. And, being buyer's agent is great, but at the end of the day, the true money and the ability to help others is definitely on the listing side of the transaction. So I think I heard you say you describe RESAAS as I don't want to use the CRM idea, but there is a CRM aspect to why an agent would want to work with you, correct?
Yeah, there is. And if you look at an agent's the DNA of a successful agent is, there's really the three components and three steps on that way to a transaction, and it's the transaction that's the payday, right, the holy grail. So the bottom rung, which everyone is conditioned to do and told to do by the managing brokers, is marketing. And there's so many different types of marketing. There's some that have been around for years, the newspaper ads, the bus stop benches, the flyers, great. There's websites, there's portals, there's social media sites, there's everything in between. And really, all we're trying to do, we're not saying don't do anything else. We're saying, well, here's another channel for you. Here's a private, professional-only network that lets you communicate with other agents. It's just another channel. So in addition to your other marketing techniques, which may or may not be effective, add another one, and it's going to be good. It's another channel for you. Marketing, the goal of that is to generate leads, and that's that kind of middle rung there where everyone wants leads of varying degrees of warmth. Obviously, the warmer the better. And the hottest type of lead is a referral. And what's interesting, Tim, is that since we've launched RESAAS and really got some great traction and some good usage, originally listings was the biggest piece of content flowing around the platform that agents were posting their listings and sharing them. But more recently, I'd say since the last 6 months, it's been referrals, where agents have dived on there and said, look, I've got a buyer moving from X to Z, and I want to find a good agent in that area. And we see that every day now, where there's an agent looking for someone, sometimes internationally, most frequently nationally, but also local as well, where they're trying to find another agent that they can refer a buyer to. And that's what's emerged as the big trend right now, and that's what a lot of agents are using RESAAS for, which is a referral network. So they can come in and participate in the world of referrals. Well,
I mean, it makes total sense because there's just an enormous amount of, folks from China and, different parts of the world that are moving to the United States right now for a whole variety of reasons that makes total sense. So RESAAS, not asking for any sort of transaction referral fee or anything like that. You guys are just allowing the agents to connect, correct?
Correct. We want to make agents do more business. So we just facilitate the introduction, get people together, and then it's down to them to work out the deal.
maybe I'm overstating this, but actually this kind of reminds me of like when Facebook originally started. I know you guys like that analogy, but when Facebook originally started, it started as a sort of a campus-only sort of social network, if you want to call it that, and then it obviously expanded outside of just being for universities. Do you guys envision that? Because right now you're sort of campus-only within the real estate industry. Do you envision sort of expanding outside of that?
No, we're focused on the agents, and that's been, that we've got a big picture of an agent in our office, and that's who we make. Every decision we make is around what's best for them. So we're focused on delivering a great experience for agents, and not just in North America, but around the world. There was RE/MAX, as you know, the biggest franchise globally, have got a presence in over 100 countries, and they saw what we're doing, and they love it. And there isn't a company out there that depicts the benefit of referrals more than RE/MAX, and they realized that with our platform they can finally provide a digital solution to match and complement their vast physical footprint. So it's we focus in North America, but it's rapidly expanding overseas as well.
So I mean, you bring up RE/MAX. Would RE/MAX have its own sort of white labeled version? I assume not. I mean, they're just basically letting their agents know about RESAAS, and essentially because it's going to better their individual agents' practices. I would imagine that in some cases, a lot of these big brands aren't going to want to have RE/MAX agents necessarily sending, referrals back and forth to competing brands. I don't know, maybe I'm just jumping to conclusions here, but are you finding that some brokerages or some big box brokerages want to keep everything in-house as far as referrals, or is this too new of a space?
I think they obviously want to keep things under one roof. And even the broker owners want that as well, obviously, to double end something or to keep both sides of the deal under the same roof. But I think what's increasingly apparent is really they just want more business. They want their agents to succeed, and the way we help with that is by, in addition to the regular RESAAS that every agent gets by signing up, when we go and talk to a brokerage or a franchise or a corporate office or an association as well, we can create a private group just for that, just for those members, just for those agents. And then it acts twofold. It acts as a private network, so a little bit like a Yammer or like a private intranet. And again, the agent can control who sees what. So maybe they've got an update, they want to send it just to their office. They can do that. And they can benefit from the public-facing benefits of RESAAS as well.
So you mentioned that that idea earlier, and that kind of stuck with me. So in other words, like if I were an agent and I was selling real estate in this particular area, and there was an group of agents that I knew were active in the same marketplace, we literally could, on your platform, we could literally form our own little private group where we could sort of communicate with each other about new listings, things that are coming up, buyers that are looking for whatnot. And you've enabled that type of very sort of personalized, localized communication, it sounds like.
Exactly. And then you've got it, Tim. And at that point, once you get the majority of agents in an area using the same platform that's designed to help real-time communication, then suddenly they control the market, right? And that's a big shift that we're seeing as we enter different regions.
Right. And so this is the reason I'm really understanding. So I never do a lot of research on the companies. I knew about you guys, but I don't normally do a lot of research on companies before I do these interviews because I want to learn it real time like our listeners are. But this is going back to what you said at the beginning. You guys are recognizing the importance of empowering the individual agent, which is kind of our mantra as well. And by keeping the agent essentially at the front of the information flow, that of course will enable that to happen. All this talk about you hear this happening at the Inman news conferences a lot, and all these people worrying about somehow agents are going to get disintermediated, and it could happen. I mean, it could, hypothetically, if agents were to get complacent and not do things like what Tom's talking about. And, if you guys are really doing a focused effort to keep in front of your potential buyers or sellers about local market data, how can anyone ever disintermediate you? Because you always be the best provider of information. I mean, at the end of the day, if a consumer talks with you guys and you guys aren't able to tell them about the new listings, well, then what use are you? But the flip side to it is if you're doing a really great job of understanding your local market, of course they're going to continue to use you. So I like that. That's good. RESAAS marketplace companies like .loop, so you guys are integrating with some of these other existing sort of platforms that agents are already using, correct? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can, and that's fresh. That's pretty new news, so I can expand on that. It's called the RESAAS Marketplace. And what we heard over and over and over again from people using RESAAS, from agents chatting, was they're looking to learn from each other, and they're looking to see what top-producing agents use to make them so successful. And in these conversations that we saw, the same names kept coming up for the different service providers that they used. And we thought, well, this is great. This is exactly what we want to see, but let's make sure everyone that's using RESAAS can benefit from this knowledge. So we formed the marketplace, which is a collection of what we deem and what our agents deem as best-of-breed products or services, again, that help agents do more business or be more efficient. We've got some great partners in there for our launch, which was just this month, actually. .loop, Contactually, BombBomb, which everyone's raving about, which helps people stay top of mind with email marketing. So it's a collection of products. We've done deals with all of them to negotiate a discount to RESAAS users. So as a member of RESAAS, you can hit our marketplace, look at the vendors that we recommend that are proven to help agents work better, and then subscribe or try them out at a discount to the regular rate. So that was the concept. We've got a great appetite from partners already, and there's a few more in the pipe. And it's a great first step into helping our users discover what's out there and discover what other agents that do well are using to help promote their business.
CRM-type offerings. You guys do integrate with some email and drip campaigns, I assume. You mentioned BombBomb, which is a video-based email campaign. You guys have integration so that it's easy for an agent to kind of bring everything under one roof?
Yeah, the marketplace is just step one, and that's really just a collection of products that we think are awesome at a better rate than you can get off the shelf. Step two that we're well underway with a few partners is a deeper integration. And at the end of the day, Tim, we know how long it takes people to learn new technologies. It's not a quick thing, especially in the world of CRM, which is traditionally been quite a complex beast. And if agents have used the same solution for years, we want to allow them to keep doing that if they like it, and really just let what happens on RESAAS talk to it. So the reality is this: we have original real estate-related activity happening every minute of every day on RESAAS. And it increasingly happens here first before other outlets like websites or portals or broker sales meetings. And we want to allow agents to harness the power of this, of being up to date with this activity, with stuff happening in their area, and share that information with their existing clients or prospects or other agents in their network. So if we can integrate with CRM solutions or drip email providers, then we do a great service to our agents.
So we talked about, obviously, the syndication or non-syndications up to the listing agent of their listings through your platform and deciding what direction they're going to go. Could you let our listeners know, especially those of you who are either on the platform already or considering being on the platform, by syndicating their listings or publishing their listings in the first place on your website, which would be a huge win for you guys, obviously, how does that specifically benefit the listing agents, other than obviously exposing it to other RESAAS members? How does that information get out to potential sellers, for example? I mean, you guys aren't a big, or maybe it's your aspiration to, I don't know, you're not a big competitor of like Zillow or Trulia or Realtor.com. You're not trying to become that kind of portal. So how, from a listing agent's perspective, would that be a benefit?
Well, it goes back to what we talked about earlier, Tim, which is more of the social side of things. And I think one of the big things to understand, and I'm sure your listeners are aware of this, is this wave of Generation Y consumers that are entering the marketplace. And I think I forget the numbers, but I think in the US it's about 80 million of them are now in the market, and they're entering the housing market in force. And remembering that the millennials are people born between the early 80s and the early 2000s, the more progressive real estate brands are educating their agents on Gen Y, and they have been for a while. I guess Margaret Kelly is one of the main proponents of that from RE/MAX, and has been saying it for years. And she's been hiring coaches to advise their agents on how to reach them, how to communicate with Gen Y, and how not to miss out on this different style of client. And remembering that Gen Y, I mean, it's a whole topic in its own, but for now I'll say that RESAAS helps an agent maximize their social presence, because Generation Y spend the majority of their time online in platforms or in networks, not the traditional portals or search engines of Generation X and people before. So RESAAS, if an agent chooses, again, can help any workflow, any activity, any listings they post on RESAAS be shared really elegantly and really beautifully and really efficiently across other social networks where they have clients or prospects, or where they can be seen by the general public.
Makes perfect sense. I mean, I'm trying to think in my head why, as an agent, I wouldn't want to be involved with RESAAS. What's the cost?
RESAAS is free.
Well, so there's no cost issue, and you guys seem to have or are in the process of developing integration into whatever other technologies these guys might be using. I like what you said. I mean, because a lot of them are going to be using other CRMs, and there's 3 or 4 big players out there. And I was very attentive to how you answered the question about replacing or being in addition to, because really it is very difficult to go from an existing CRM you've used for a long time to then decide to switch over and use a totally different one. And I can see how RESAAS would complement the existing CRM and maybe in a lot of ways do what you were hoping the original CRM would originally do for you when you started using them in the first place. And I am also understanding what you mean about Generation Y. I mean, they are more tied to gathering information and getting opinions from their social networks. They're more tied into what other people think than maybe, so you Generation X is what I am, then we'll go and we'll do our own research, and Generation Xers are big research, and we'll gather opinions from websites, whereas Generation Y is more dependent on the opinions of their peers. So it's a different way of thinking, and that trend definitely is growing, because I can see that that's starting to influence the way virtually everything is being marketed nowadays. And you guys are kind of front-running that emerging generational shift. And the amazing thing, I don't think this doesn't get talked about enough, and I can tell you guys think about this a lot, but the Generation Y, the numbers of those people makes their parents, which were mostly baby boomers, look like a drop in the bucket. There's so many baby boomers had so many kids. There's so many of these guys that are getting in the family formation stages that they're going to be buying and selling real estate, and they're going to be a bigger, more significant, impact socially and certainly on housing than their parents ever were. And so, if you want to be relevant in real estate the next 5 years, let alone 10, you sure as heck better be gearing your I hate to use the word branding, but your lead generation tactics towards attracting those types of consumers. So, I mean, I can't really see any reason why any agent would want to do business with you guys. It sounds like a no-brainer, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, well said, Tim. And remember the key stat, which is, and I think you know it more clearly than me, over 2/3 of people appoint the first realtor they make contact with. And if we look at the habits of Gen Y, they're trigger happy to have multiple conversations at once. They communicate by text and instant message more than the phone, and don't even go to voicemail. So if we can help agents understand that and help them, jump on leads, jump on prospects, find a way to get their content, their listings, their knowledge, their brand, their face in front of Generation Y, and educate them to say, when they reach out to you, jump on it, then they're empowered to succeed. And with those stats that are out there, and it's not surprising that people appoint, often the first realtor they make contact with, then we're going to help agents that are ready for this generational wave that's already entered the market and still coming, do more business. And that's, again, what our primary objective is.
It's funny, Tom, what you said. Doesn't matter what technologist I bring on, doesn't matter what top producing agent we interview, doesn't matter, all of them say it all comes back down to fast lead follow-up, or what we call furiously fast lead follow-up. And you were just essentially, underlining that because, guys, it doesn't matter where the lead comes from. There's no such thing as a bad lead. What really makes a difference, what really makes it so one agent becomes wildly successful and the other agent struggles, really is the time from that initial contact to how long it takes for you to get back with them. And obviously, guys, if given a choice, you always want to call people back. If someone sends you an SMS, pick up the phone. You have their phone number and call them back. That's always going to be more efficient than any other form of communication. It's kind of interesting to me as this technology evolves, how people make decisions change, and how really how we all communicate. The essence of what makes somebody successful is the fast lead follow-up, but also their ability to communicate effectively in person and on the phone with that prospect, and knowing what to say, knowing how to say it, and getting back again for the 4th time, and how fast it takes for you to follow up with them. That makes all the difference. So, Tom, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners? 50,000 people that you'd like to share with them about RESAAS? Any other maybe questions I should have asked you that I didn't?
Well, just to follow on from what you were just saying, Tim, about response time to consumers, we're seeing that same trend, that same habit true of agents as well. And as I mentioned earlier, we're seeing more and more referrals flow through the platform. And in that case, an agent says, I've got a buyer moving to wherever it is. And when the replies start happening and other agents say, I'm there, call me, I'm here, check out my website and get excited, and there's a list of 10, a dozen, 20, 50 agents replying, it's usually always the first or second one that we hear from that says, yep, I got the deal and I closed it. So it just shows this is a trigger-happy industry, both on the consumer side with this younger generation, but especially on the professional side. And with a platform like ours, which is real-time, and with our mentality, which is we're trying to help you guys succeed by being equipped to respond quickly and efficiently, we can help everyone do more business in a more efficient manner.
I'm kind of curious your perspective on something. Are you seeing, because, the average agent's almost 60 years old, 56 or 57, earns $29,000 a year, according to NAR. Are you seeing a new generation and any notable numbers get into the industry?
From an agent level?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, what are the rates? I think it's 7 or 8% new licensees year over year. And they're typically, as the older guard are moving on and retiring, the younger people coming in are of that generation. And they come in, and the great thing is they understand the benefits that not just social, but also different technologies can bring to how they run a business. So we're definitely seeing that. And the great thing is that every one of those new agents entering the industry that's from that generation, they're perfectly primed to dive into RESAAS. It will make complete sense to them because if you've used another social network, ours looks very similar. But the bottom line with ours is it's there to help them do more business, to find other agents, to share referrals, to learn from. And, the easy analogy is at all of the different shows and conventions that you've been to, really agents that go there are, often they're the top producing agents, and they're there for really two reasons. One is to see what's new, see what's hot, see what people on panels who are the experts, what they're saying, what they're using, and ultimately try and become a better agent. And secondly, meet with friends and, have a drink and that kind of thing. But really it's networking, and the goal of that ultimately is to try and do some new business somewhere down the line. So they go to learn and they go to network to do business. And RESAAS is just an online place that they can do exactly that.
So you mentioned in your office, this will be my last question for you, the marketing concept of having a picture of your ideal consumer, or in your, you guys have a picture of your ideal realtor, and that way you can always kind of in your mind run up what is the wants, the needs, the desires, hidden and otherwise, of that potential realtor, the person we want to help, the person we want to empower. I'm kind of curious, what do you see that agent's primary concerns? We talked about as a listing agent, but going forward, what are the things that agents maybe aren't paying attention to, don't know, that maybe they should be focusing on more, that RESAAS is going to solve? Because you said so many powerful things on today's radio show. My mind is just filling with all the different advantages an agent would have with engaging with you guys. But when you're looking at that picture on the wall, what is it that agent's going to want, say, for example, 6 months from now or 12 months from now that they don't necessarily recognize they're going to want now? I like to keep our listeners ahead of the curve, and I have a feeling, Tom, you are thinking ahead of the curve already. So would you like to share anything?
Sure. And that face on the wall that we talk about, we know very clearly that they're offered dozens and dozens of different products or services or offerings to make themselves more successful. And it's a lot of noise. And really, their primary goal is to find as many people to list their homes with them and sell them. They've got a business to run. They don't want to spend their entire life sat in front of the computer doing this, clicking that. We're trying to optimize that whole workflow. And so if we can do that by saying, first of all, if you want to be better, here are some other services we recommend. Here are some ways you can change how you work day to day using this platform, which is really, really simple. And here's how you can be out there in front of other agents. You can be top of mind with your prospects. You can leverage social media properly. We've really just created a very, very, very simple, we try and use the analogy, it's very Fisher-Price, right? It's very clunky. You shouldn't have to think too hard. Dive into RESAAS for a few minutes a day. Do what you need to do. Keep on top of what's happening locally so you're better equipped from a knowledge standpoint, and that will pay dividends down the line. And what's happening is this big wave of agents coming in every day that's doing that. We're seeing them do more and post more and win more listings and mark more listings as sold, and that's the key thing. That's the Yahoo moment in this whole cycle, which is after everything they've done to win the listing, to market it, to do the negotiations, to do the open houses, to do everything that goes into selling a listing, when it finally happens, that should be a celebratory moment. And we encourage that and we help it happen. And we see that our hot users that have been with us for a while and come back frequently really start posting their success stories and the listings they've sold, and it's great to see. And there's proof there that we've got a platform where when you unite professionals and they can work together, it lets them do more business on a B2B level. And I think the key thing that correlates that are the stats from NAR, where they say that about 10% of traffic or the source of a transaction comes from consumers. That's personal websites, it's search portals, it's open houses too. 20% comes from your past clients, and the balance, 70%, comes from an agent's network of other agents, whether it be in their office or just in their local neighborhood. That's a massive chunk of business that comes from their professional network. RESAAS is that professional network online, and I think that's why people using it are seeing great benefit from being part of this network.
So listeners, there's a link in this replay that I know most of you guys listen in replay. We'll have thousands listen in replay and 7 listen to it live. And listen, the 70 of you that listen live, believe me, I appreciate it. I'm not saying I don't. But regardless, click the link and go over to RESAAS. And if you're just listening and you don't have the link, it's obviously http://RESAAS.com, or just Google it, RESAAS.com, and go sign up. It's free. Check it out. I like everything I heard. I think you guys are definitely leading the way to helping the industry to kind of find its, if I want to be honest, find its heart. And the fact is that the core of this industry is the individual agent. The core of this industry is the individual listing agent. And you guys are empowering that individual listing agent. And I hear the passion in your voice, Tom, and I really appreciate you being my co-host today. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time, Tim, and happy to do this again.
Very good. Have a great day. Thanks, everyone.